Hey guys, this is the third part within the Python tutorial series, and today I'm going to be talking to you about string manipulation and while loops. So as we left off in the last class with for loops, and we ran this program which would find the range, find like the sum of 3 or 2 of 10 numbers. So as you can see, this program works, and this finds out the sum of the following numbers. Now, within this part of the tutorial, we are going to be learning about while loops and string manipulation. So, last class we learned one way of iterating, one way of looping over and repeating code. As you can see, this for loop repeats multiple number of times to get the sum. So, another way of sort of looping or repeating is using a while loop. Now it's a very similar. It's like a pseudo conditional. It's like a conditional statement or a selection statement, as you know, like if statements, which take condition, and only if the condition's true, it'll run code. Whereas here, it will loop. A while loop is like whenever this condition is true. If I give like if a number is greater than 5, then the following code under it should run, right? If numbers equal to like greater, if it's greater than 5, so it'll be like 6. Only if it's 6, then it'll run. So and so code on below will run, like print number, one sec. Yeah, number is greater than 5. Yeah, so this should give numbers greater than 5. Yeah, but a while loop, what it will do is, as long as the statement that we have written is true, it will do the following. So if I did while, it's most likely going to repeat this forever because we're not changing the value of number. Yeah, and to stop this sort of repeating, if you ever occur this or get this, you should click Control C on a terminal. So it'll stop the process, and so it's a keyboard interrupt, so it stops it. So currently I'm going to try to write the same code that we load last time, but instead of repeating a certain number of times, like 10 times, we can tell the user, okay, when you type -1, then you stop the loop. Okay, so something like that. And as you if I'm not explained this to before, but all of these conditional statements, right, which we write here, this sort of thing is actually returning, or it's actually producing a boolean. As I taught you before, a boolean is a true or a false. So basically what happens is, if something is true, then it'll print it out. So an example would be, for this would be a condition equals to num greater than 5, and I'll do if statement so that you can see it, as it won't repeat forever. And instead of writing num greater than 5, we put it into a variable, and this should also work. Yeah, num is greater than 5, and to show you that it's actually the condition is actually returning for the value of true, I'll print condition for you. And if you're using VS Code like me, you can click tab to autocomplete stuff. So as you can see, true, so it returns this value. So we're going to use the conditional statement. Okay, we won't use the conditional. We will use a conditional statement for a while loop, and and whenever he or she types -1, then it'll stop the loop. So for this, we require sums, like in the last part we had mentioned. So sums has to be initialized to 0, and a condition would be when this sort of when the value entered, which would be a number, or so we'll just initialize number to be something at the starting, so that it when we say like if number is equal to, and as you know, equal to is, we use two equal to signs for showing that something's equal to something. So -1, then we'll okay, so while, so when it's equal to -1, this will run, but we do not want that to happen. We want it when it's not equal to -1. So the symbol for not equals to is an exclamation mark, or equals to, or another way of doing this is we have a function known as not. So it'll basically take whatever that comes from here and turns it to the opposite boolean. So like as I told you before, this will return the value of true. Now what will happen is this not will return it as false, return a false. Will return false on my true value if it's true, and vice versa. So I'll stick with not equals to, and yeah, so while it's not equal to 1, so it will run as long as my number is not equal to 1. So then we'll take an input. Okay, so we have here a number is equal to int, because you want, because input returns a string and we want to convert it into a number, and the prompt will be enter the number. Okay, so the one more difference between this statement and our previous code is that over here we don't have a counter. I'll show you exactly what a counter was, because I did not clarify very like I didn't show strong clarification in the last video of what exactly a count is. So I'll give you a way to visualize what a count, how a counter will print out. Okay, so we enter the number, and then sums is equal to sums is plus equals to, I told you it's sums equals to sums plus the whatever we enter here. That's basically a shortened version of that. And then we'll print our sum. So print the sum is sums f strings. Yeah, so this should work. So enter a number, we'll enter number until like I click a negative number. If I put no negative number, -1, so -1, it ends the loop. This is how you would use something like a while loop. This is a bit unneat because I'm gonna put a colon. Okay, so this is how you would do it, and I'll show you what a counter does in a for loop, as I had explained something similar, something in the last episode. Yeah, okay. So this counter, right? A counter keeps track of where in the loop you are, and the counter for the statement is I. Okay, you can name this whatever you want, but a general convention in programming is to name it I. And if you're using, sometimes you might have a loop within a loop, which would be like for j in range, it's convention to use I and j in programming. And then you would if you highlight stuff and click tab, it'll take the whole thing, it'll tab the whole thing, so like that. So sometimes it's convention to keep I and j one after the other within programming. So I will I'm not going to do a nested loop. A nesting is when you have a loop inside a loop, or a conditional statement inside a conditional statement. All this will do is, like, for every, an example would be, instead of taking, let me just reach the number. So I'll print I and j both for you so that you can see. So this will go 5 times. It'll be 5 into 2, which will be around 10 times. It'll ask this question. So I'll print I and print j, just so you can see how it works. We'll be using this more often when we introduce different data types, like lists especially, or in other programming languages we have equivalent data structure known as array. They are fundamentally almost the same thing, but there are slight differences between them. And Python also has arrays, but it's not included with the language automatically. We have to import something, and I'll talk about imports later on. So we add numbers. I can see here at starting I is equal to 0. Oh, sorry, I think I need to print j here and then print I, otherwise the loops, the printing statements will come very weird. So Control C will end the program. It's a keyboard interrupt. So 12, that will be the value of j and I. So you can see it's incrementing. You can see 1, 2, 3. This is the value of I, and it's the value of j. So because, oh yeah, one more thing, the counters, like many things you're gonna see in Python, and in most languages, everything starts from 0. Okay, whenever we count anything within programming languages, we count from 0. We do not count from 1. So I'll be teaching you also about string manipulation by the end of this episode. And even over there, when you're accessing a letter within a string, we're also going to start from 0. So this is the convention in Python and many other languages. The range function, if you want to mention a start and an end point, you can do from 1 to 5. But just note that Python specifically will include the first in their looping, right? If you get accessing j or I, it'll include the lower bound, which is your 1. It'll start from 1. It'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. It'll not go to 5. As you're including 1, it'll loop 5 times, including 1 itself. But just note that the countings are that. So whenever we don't mention it like this, it'll go from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it won't really reach 5. You might be able to see it. Sorry, I clicked 12 after it, so it ended there. So 4. It won't reach 5. It'll end at 4. So yeah, that's exactly how counters would work. Now will talk about a little bit about string manipulation. We have multiple string functions that we could use, and well, I'm going to talk about few of them and about just basic how you would access a string. Now imagine there is a string. I'm going to name the string. Okay, a string, as I told you, is a set of or a group of text, or it's a line of text per se, or it can be a paragraph or even a letter, but it's just text in general. If I said um, the man went for a run, okay. So so now if I want to access or take a small portion of the string and access a few letters or characters, we can sort of use the number at which that letter is in, like imagine. And remember, like I told you before, we start counting from 0, so like the T will be on the 0th, and we call these indexes, okay. Like each letter where it is sort of we use the term index to denote where it is. So we would start at T would be on the 0th index, H would be on the first index, E would be on the second index, space would be on the third index, and so on and so forth. So an example would be if I printed, and the way you would show which index you want to print out or show or retrieve would be by using these sort of square brackets, as you can see here, these square brackets. So this should print out T as we start from the 0th. We don't start from 1. So if you run this, see, it prints out T. Now if you want to take more than one character, we would use a colon to, okay, this would print all the letters. I'll show you an example. So this would print all the letters before 0, as because it sort of goes around it, so it'll print everything that's after 0 it'll print. So imagine if I did 5 over here, 5 colon, you could see the output. It prints everything besides the first 5. So everything's after 5 it'll print. So if you have a colon basically means just print everything after this. And if I did before, to do the exact opposite, see everything before 5. So it'll be like 1 2 0 1 2 2 3 4, and this is the 5th letter, so everything before this, that's the M. So if you, and then this is from the starting of the string. Imagine you would want to start in the middle, like you would take something that's in the middle. So if I want to take the word man, okay, imagine, so this is on the 0th index, 0 1 2 3 3, then this is 4. So if I did, I think it's 4 colon 7, or is it 5 colon 8? Yeah, 4 colon 7. Yeah. So this would basically mean M is on the 4th index, N is on the 7th index. So just print everything that's in between that. That's how you would access words or anything that's in between stuff. And in general, you would do that. And if you want to get the reverse of a string, this is another way of, another string function that you have to know, or that may be useful, is whenever you print 2 colons and a -1, you'll basically traverse, is the computer science term we use. So it'll flip the sentence per se. See, it's exactly the opposite. THE, that's the, MAN is man, WENT is went, and so on and so forth. Just flipped. Everything's flipped. So that's you flip a string. And now now there is a very useful functions. Function is something that takes in a value, you put the value in it, and it gives you something output. There are also procedures which do not output anything but do things in the background. We'll come to functions and procedures later on, but we have something known as the length function. So whenever we put something in brackets and type len outside it will take the length of the string, and so this counts from 1. So it basically just takes exactly the length, counting from starting from 1. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10, whatever, so on and so forth. I'm not sure of the size of this. We'll print it out. So this has exactly 22 characters in it, including spaces. Okay, inclusive of spaces. So this is one of the most important functions that we have. This works for most data types, like lists, which I'm gonna come to maybe in the next episode. And yeah, there's length function. Then we have other functions. If you want to see the list of all the functions that are there, you're welcome to type help, which is a function that's made by Python. If I type help and a string, say any string, or even if you typed str, which is to convert anything into a string, whatever's put in it, and we print this just to see it out. Let's see what comes. I haven't used this properly, but I've heard of it. Yeah, as you can see here, these are all the functions. Add is to concatenate stuff. These are all the functions. Ignore the ones with double hashes. Yeah, okay. So you can see capitalize. So we'll take the entire string and capitalize it. This is the functions that are there. If you want to see the list of them, just click enter. You can see list of them. I'll tell you the most important ones. So that I use pretty often. So one of them would be string and then string dot lower. Okay. So this was sort of what it does is it takes whatever characters you have. Let me just put some capital letters within it. T W gaps, so that it'll take the string and basically return to you or give you the string as though it was a lower letter or was in lowercase. Another very good thing is when you have extra spaces. Okay, imagine I put like a lot of spaces here and I printed this. Okay, it'll come with a lot of spaces here. Now we have another function known as dot strip, which will remove any line, next lines. Okay, so if you want to put anything on the next line, you generally have something known as \n. This is how general text editors use, what they use to denote what a next line is. Same thing what Python uses. So /n. So if you want to remove any of these /n's and spaces, we would use dot strip. So we strip it of anything extra that's required, that's there. So this will remove all of your spaces that you're getting over here. Another very important function, there are many other functions that are pretty important, but these were ones that I use very often, especially when you go into a little more advanced Python or intermediate Python. You use these pretty often. And let me look at the list of functions that are there, because at times I forget. Okay, so we have any other mode. Capitalize is not used that often, but you have length, you have size of, you have count, encode, ends with basically just try. Yeah, find is a very important function as well. You have a lot of these question functions to see whether a character is lower, is it upper. We have a lot of these functions that just help us. Is lower, is upper, is space, something like that. We have a lot of these type of functions that help us. Another important function will be dot find. Okay, so we come up with an index. We put like a substring. A substring basically means a part of the string. Imagine we put man. It will give us the index of man, or where it is within. This is another very important one for. So these are all the basic string manipulation that you need to know of. And using the while loops as well, we would have a pretty big variety of stuff we have learned till now. And the last thing I'm going to end this video off is when you're printing statements. Imagine we want to print something, and then you print some, and we control C, and I'll one sec. I print man. Okay, control C, control V, and I print it. You can see here these both come in within the next line of each other. Now something I want to teach you is, if we want to put something on the same line, what we do is we type end, we type a comma, and then we type end equals to nothing. Generally speaking, this is default, or default value would be /n, so that it goes to the next line. But if you do not want it to go to the next line, we would do this, so it comes in one line. And we could also multiply this. If you do multiplication on any string, it'll just like print that string 3 times or 4 times, or whatever you like to say on the same thing. So yeah, and you can add, like I told you, concatenation and so on and so forth. So I would like to give you guys another project to do. which should be to start to print out this pyramid. Okay, I'll give you a simpler one, and then I might explain a more complicated one. Which would be, I would like you to, it can be any symbol, so it should be something like this. You should let the user input the height. I should try printing a pyramid like this. So these are the basic concepts that we have learned, so on and so forth, and a pyramid. And if you are if you think you can do better than that, or you think you've understood the concept of while of loops and structures even more better, then you could try doing something that, like, where it's actually sort of it wouldn't work for this. It would work if it's every other, which would be sort of centering this sort of pyramid structure. We'd have to do 3 5. Like, I'll show you a smaller one. Like this, if I had to center this pyramid, it would be something like this. Centering the pyramid, that would be, if you understood how to do the previous one, you could do this one. So I would like you guys to try to test this out, and please comment below what you think about my videos and how can I improve. And thank you for watching this video, and I hope you sort of continue on the series, or try to learn Python even more. It's an amazing language, and I'm pretty sure you'll be able to apply this sort of knowledge to other parts of your life. Thank you, and have a nice day.